Hey, welcome back. I'm loading into a cozy world tonight. Lanterns on, rain low. We'll wander, mine a little, and read calm Reddit stories with clean endings. If you doze off, that's a win. If you're here to chill while you study or grind a game, also good. My pace is slow on purpose. No jump scares. No loud sounds. Just soft builds, small wins, and people who actually talk things out. Grab water. Get comfy. I'm building. You're chilling. Let's start with the first story. I came home and my windowsill looked too empty. You know how you notice it before you process it. Like when a picture is crooked and your brain wants to tilt the world. My little fern wasn't there. Tiny curly fronds. Terracotta pot with a chip near the rim. Gone. The sill felt weirdly naked, like it had taken off its glasses and couldn't see me back. I checked the kitchen. Not there. Checked the bathroom, because sometimes I park plants in the steam for a day. No luck. The sink had one spoon and a lemon wedge, like it was trying to look busy. I sighed and wandered past my roommate's door. It was open a hand's width. His desk faces the window, and the afternoon sun likes that side of the apartment. The light was warm and honey-colored, and right there in it, my fern, chilling like it had decided to study abroad. I stood in the doorway for a second. Not mad, just surprised. It's a plant. It doesn't know it's been kidnapped. It's just sitting there drinking light like it always does. He had put it on a stack of books about productivity. The whole vibe was a little too on the nose. I could have knocked and said something right then, but our place runs better when we don't start with door speeches. So I went back to my room, flopped on the bed, and texted. Hey, I miss my fern. Can we make a please ask first rule? Simple. Not a thesis. I set the phone down and watched dust float in a sunbeam. The room felt quiet in that end of day way. A train muttered in the distance. Someone upstairs coughed. 3 dots popped up. Disappeared. Popped back. I smiled. The classic, how do I not sound like the villain, typing dance. OMG, sorry. It looks sad in your shade. I thought I was helping. Bringing it now. I texted back a thumbs up. Then I added, thanks. It likes morning light, but not the 3 p.m. blast. Information without the lecture. 2 minutes later, he knocked. I opened the door, and there was my fern with a tiny stick label in the pot, handwritten with a black pen. Fernando. I laughed. Not because it's the best plant name on earth. Just because he tried. Effort counts. He said he'd give it fresh soil as an apology. I said okay, but let's Google what kind. We're not dumping mystery dirt on a living thing like it's a cupcake. We landed on a simple indoor mix and agreed to skip fertilizer for a while. Slow and steady. He asked if I wanted to build a shelf for both our plants by the big window in the living room. Shared light. Shared space. It sounded nice. I said yes. The next Saturday, we measured the wall like professional adults who had absolutely watched 3 shelf tutorials and forgotten all of them. We picked pine, light wood, gentle grain. We sanded it on the balcony, took turns holding boards while the other drilled. The neighbors smoked and gave us a nod like we were joining a club. When we put the shelf up, it looked kind of good, not crooked, not wobbly. We were proud in a low-key way. We moved the plants, my fern, his pothos, a tiny succulent he found on sale that looked like a starfish trying to do yoga. The light from that window is kinder. It wraps instead of blasts. The fern seemed to unfurl a little, like it was stretching after a nap. I watered it and watched the soil drink. He set a coaster under the pot so we wouldn't stain the wood. Good call. We made some rules, but not the kind you have to memorize. Just stuff that keeps the vibe smooth. Ask before moving. If a plant looks droopy, tell the other person. No passive-aggressive plant notes on the fridge. We also set a watering rhythm. I take even days. He takes odds. It's silly, but it helps, because neither of us has to guess. There's a pattern. Life loves patterns. The fern got a little spritz every other morning. Not a shower, just a soft mist. I'd say good morning to it in my head, which sounds dumb and is fine. He played a quiet podcast while he watered his vines. He also started turning the pots a quarter turn every few days so the plants wouldn't lean. I hadn't even thought of that. Teamwork changes what you notice. One afternoon I came home, and the fern had new baby fronds curling in like tiny fists. I crouched to look closer and felt that small, clean happiness you get when something gentle goes right. I sent him a picture. Fernando is thriving. He sent back a proud parent emoji. We joked about getting a second fern and naming it something equally tragic. We did not do that. Restraint is growth. Every now and then, the sun hit hard, and the room warmed up. We pulled a thin curtain we'd put up for exactly that. Diffuse light. No leaf burn. It's simple, but it felt like we were finally thinking ahead together, not fixing things after we messed them up. The shelf became this little shared ritual spot. We'd sip water there in the late morning, sometimes coffee, sometimes nothing. Just a quiet look at green things doing their slow science. There were a couple tiny hiccups. Once he moved the fern to wipe the shelf and forgot to put it back. I texted a fern emoji and the word lost. And he jogged out of his room like he'd just misplaced a toddler. We laughed. Another time, I overwatered, and the pot leaked because I misjudged how thirsty it actually was. I owned it. I lifted the pot for airflow. We stuck paper towels under it and let it chill. No dramatic speeches. Just fix it. Outside of the plant zone, something else shifted. It's funny how a clear boundary in one area teaches you the vibe for other stuff. I noticed he started asking before borrowing my charger. I started asking before borrowing his pan. We both got better at, hey, is it cool if... Which honestly is the whole game. You don't have to predict the other person. Just ask. Ask early. Ask kind. We also put 2 hooks by the window for small spray bottles. Mine has plain water. His has a few drops of neem oil for the time he thought he saw a gnat. It turned out to be a bit of dust. We laughed, but we kept the neem. Better to be ready. We didn't turn into plant people with capital letters. We didn't start posting leaf photos with poetic captions. We just paid attention. My favorite part was evenings. The street got quiet. The shelf glowed in the last light. I'd watch shadows crawl up the wall and shrink as the sun dipped. Sometimes, I'd tell him a piece of my day in those short, weightless sentences you only use when nothing urgent is clawing at you. Sometimes, he'd share a story about work that sounded like a small puzzle, and we'd solve it while looking at leaves. The room felt safe. It's weird how a fern can be part of that. One day, he left a tiny card by the pot. Sorry again I moved it without asking. Not cool. Thanks for being chill. It had a doodle of a fern wearing sunglasses. I put the card inside the frame of a photo on the bookshelf. Not because I needed to remember. Just because owning a moment like that makes the next one easier. Eventually, we added a small grow light for winter evenings. Nothing harsh. Warm tone. A timer so we wouldn't overdo it. Set and forget. The fern didn't mind the seasons like I did. It kept its quiet pace. Some weeks it looked extra full. Some weeks it was just fern. That taught me something I didn't know I needed. Not every week has to be a highlight reel. Sometimes steady is the win. A friend visited and said the apartment felt nicer than last time. Softer. They didn't know about the plant saga. They just felt the result. I smiled and handed them a glass of water. They crouched to smell the fern, which doesn't really smell like anything, but I didn't ruin it. Some rituals are about the gesture. We still joke about Fernando's social calendar. Some mornings he hangs out on the left side for indirect light. Some afternoons he sits in the center like a proud grandfather. We rotate pots. We share a calendar reminder called Leaf Day, because naming things dumb makes them easy to remember. Most of the time, the system runs itself. The only real maintenance is a little attention and a little respect. I think that's what the plant taught us. Ask first. Keep the light soft. Don't dump change on something just because you feel like fussing. And if you forget and someone texts you kindly, bring the plant back with better soil and a silly name. You won't break anything by trying to fix it with care. There's a small chip on the terracotta rim that catches the light at certain angles. I like it. I don't want a perfect pot. I want the one we said sorry over and then made better together. It reminds me that home isn't the furniture or the square footage. It's the agreements you keep. It's the shelf you built on a Saturday. It's the rhythm of even days and odd days and the sound of water soaking soil while the room breathes slow. And yeah, the fern really does look happier than both of us, which is fine. We're catching up. Yeah, that ended clean. Okay, next one. The rehearsal dinner almost went sideways over chairs. Not even the big things. Just who sits where, and how near the speakers, and which table gets the aunt who tells long stories that never land. Small stuff turns sharp when everyone's tired. The bride had that tight smile people wear when they're saying, "It's fine," and it's not fine. The groom kept refreshing the group chat like it owed him rent. The mother-in-law had opinions that could bench press a car. I was there mostly to help with little tasks. Ribbon on favors, pens that actually write. Water, but not the fancy kind that tastes like a rock. But I saw the seating plan and felt my brain itch. The chart was a pile of names with lines and arrows and notes like maybe and no. It looked like a conspiracy wall built by a very polite detective. The speakers were drawn as two little boxes that pointed straight at the oldest table. Bad start. I asked if I could try a thing. They were too stressed to argue. I cleared a corner of the table and made 4 simple zones with sticky notes. Family, friends, kids, and floaters, who could go either way without explosions. I pulled a handful of markers and color blocked the names. No fancy software. Just colors and gravity. People like to sit near their people. Sounds obvious. It's also magic. Then I asked 2 questions that fix most events. Who needs easy exits? And who needs to hear well? Older guests and new parents got tables close to the edges. Short walk to bathrooms. Space for strollers. The couple's friends who wanted to dance got tables near the path to the floor. We spun the speaker icons so they aimed at open space, not faces. Angled sound is gentler. We left a buffer table between the loudest parts and the "please don't shout across me" crowd. The mother-in-law hovered. She wasn't mean, just protective of her picture in her head. I showed her the candy bar layout and said we could seat her near it so she could greet people. Not in the corner, not far from the couple. Close enough to feel central. Also close enough to help the kids pick gummy bears without causing a riot. She softened. She liked the idea of being the person everyone passed by first. Small reframe. Big win. We did a test run with place cards. No glue yet. Just a gentle shuffle. I said the rule out loud. No table is the bad table. Every table has a reason. Tell me your reason, and I'll show you its seat. People nodded because they needed a sentence to lean on. The bride's shoulders dropped half an inch. That's still a lot in wedding math. Once we had the shape, we did small tweaks. Allergies near the kitchen for easy plate swaps. The cousin who doesn't drink near the sparkling water stash. Not trapped between 2 wine fountain uncles. Grandparents seated where they could see the couple without turning their necks like owls. The DJ walked by and I asked him to point the speaker stands slightly away from table edges and to keep the early playlist soft. He said, of course, like we'd just asked him to do his job, which we had, but sometimes you have to ask. We used little icons to mark kids at each table and gave those tables something to do. Crayons, paper, a tiny scavenger hunt that said, find someone who can tell you how the couple met. It's quiet chaos control. Keeps hands busy. Saves napkins from becoming airplanes. I wrote, "Please don't eat the centerpiece," in pencil under one of the sheets because I'm realistic. The best part was how it shifted the room energy in practice. People stopped squinting at the map like it was a treasure nobody could find. They saw the colors and understood the pattern. Groups that belonged together were together. People who needed space had space. The couple stopped apologizing for the plan and started owning it. It wasn't perfect. It was human. That's the mark. Wedding day. The hall had that clean morning echo before anyone fills it. The tables looked like calm little islands. White cloth. Simple flowers. No centerpiece taller than a face, because tall ones force weird lean-arounds. The place cards matched the colors we'd used on the chart, just a tiny stripe so people could navigate by tone if they got lost. It's like color-coding a subway without making a big deal. Guests trickled in. You could see recognition flicker when they spotted their people. There were hugs that didn't block walkways because the paths were clear. The new parents smiled like they'd found a level surface for the first time in months. Grandparents sat down with a view and looked relieved without having to say it. The mother-in-law got her candy bar thrown and immediately started greeting people by name. She was in her element, that diffused 10 other things at once. The DJ kept the volume to breathable during food. You could hear your table. You didn't have to lean so far, you almost wore your salad. The toasts happened with the mics aimed right and the speakers angled away, and even the jokes landed without the "what" shuffle that kills momentum. When the first dance ended and the floor opened, the path from the young tables to the music felt natural. No chairs in the way, no awkward traffic. It's basic flow. It matters. Halfway through, the aunt with long stories did tell one. Classic. But she had a good table mix, and people laughed at the right spots because they weren't already irritated by 10 other frictions. The tiny choices made the big personality moments easier to love. Even the cousin who gets bored after 20 minutes found the scavenger hunt and interviewed 3 people like a tiny journalist. He brought his notes to the couple later. They teared up, in a good way. Dessert. The candy bar did numbers. Kids lined up, but the mother-in-law ran it like a cheerful train station. No pile-ups. She handed grandparents their favorites first. Small gestures. Big respect. I watched the bride exhale again, a longer one this time. Not because everything was flawless, because nothing was fighting her. I bounced table to table, checking tiny issues. A chair squeaked. We swapped it. Someone couldn't find a name card. It had slid under a plate. We rescued it. The kitchen had a vegetarian plate go rogue. We rerouted it without ceremony. This is the part no one sees on Instagram. The quiet fixes, the micro wins. They're boring, and that's why they save you. Near the end, the DJ turned it up a notch, but the elders were far enough that it was a pulse, not a wall. They clapped along. Some even danced a little at the edge, safe in a circle of chairs where they could sit whenever. The couple's college friends did the loud songs and somehow didn't spill anything because their path back to the tables wasn't a maze. Design helps behavior. It's not magic. It just sets people up to be their better selves. I checked on the kids' table. Crayons everywhere, but in a contained kind of way. One kid drew the couple as stick figures with giant smiles. Another drew the cake with 12 layers, because that's the dream. Nobody had eaten a centerpiece. We celebrate the wins we get. People started saying things like, "This felt easy," and "I could hear everything," and "The candy bar lady is a legend." Tiny reviews, 5 stars. We took a minute in the hallway with the bride and groom. They looked like themselves again, not like event managers trying to survive their own party. They thanked me like I'd done some big thing. I hadn't. I'd just given the room permission to be kind. When it was time to go, cleanup didn't feel like a battlefield. Chairs were roughly where they belonged. Place cards were taken as tiny souvenirs. Centerpieces were picked up by exactly who they were meant for. The DJ rapped neatly. The mother-in-law hugged me and whispered, "Good seat by the candy." I said, "I know." We both laughed. Later, the couple sent a message with a photo of the chart we made. They kept it. Someone had doodled hearts in the corners. The colors looked bright even in bad lighting. The text said, "You saved us," with like 5 exclamation points. I responded with one because balance. But I got it. The room hadn't been about chairs. It had been about care. And that's the part I'll remember. Not where everyone sat. Just the feeling when the volume was right and the faces were soft, and people could hear the vows, and also hear themselves. I think weddings try too hard to be perfect, and forget to be kind. A good seating chart is just kindness with an index. So, if you end up in charge of who sits where one day, try the simple things. Group by comfort. Give elders a view. Give parents space. Aim the speakers at air, not ears. Put the person who loves to greet people where greeting happens, and leave room for small walks. It turns a long night into a gentle one. By the way, everyone got cake. Nobody sat where the air blew napkins into their face, and the couple danced like the first song was a slow inhale, and the second song was a long exhale, which is how a night like that should feel. Well, that was an interesting story now, but I think this next one is even better. Let me read it. The fence was tired. It leaned like it wanted a nap. Every breeze made it sigh. Boards clicked. Nails whispered old complaints. I watched it from my kitchen and felt that little itch you get when something is almost fine, but not really. It had survived 3 winters and 1 very dramatic soccer ball. It deserved a spa day, or at least a brace. My neighbor and I share that fence. We're not best friends. We're chat in the hallway friends. Enough to swap a cup of sugar and a wave. Enough to say, "Nice hat," when he wears the big straw one that looks like a beach decided to be a person. He's kind. He's practical. He fixes things with the quiet confidence of a guy who has a well-organized jar of screws. I knocked on his door with 2 printouts and a vibe. The 2 options were simple. Split the cost now and replace the tired posts. Or brace it for free with scrap lumber and plan a proper upgrade in spring. I had a quote from a local contractor. I also had a sketch for a DIY brace that looked like it was drawn by a toddler with ambition. He opened the door in socks and a hoodie and read both papers like a judge in traffic court. Then he nodded. We picked the modest fix. Save the big spin for when the ground isn't frozen and we're less broke. We walked the fence line together. You can learn a lot about a person by how they look at a problem. He put his hand on the top rail and pressed. I did the same. The whole thing moved like a wave. The posts at the low point had rotted. The soil held them like a tired handshake. We kept our jokes gentle. No roasting the fence. It had tried. We marked the worst spots with painter's tape. Blue flags in a field of brown boards. A string line went up to set a straight path. I learned that a straight line on a fence is about illusion. The land dips. The eye lies. You aim for looks right, and the brain fills the rest. We picked 3 posts to brace and 1 to reset from scratch because it was past negotiation. The next morning, we set up like small-town contractors. Level. Shovel. Bags of quick-setting mix. 2x4s for braces. A bucket that had seen things. He brought coffee in mugs that didn't match. I brought a playlist that was basically wind noises and a guitar that had never been mad. We worked without hurry. Nobody was grading us. It felt good. We dug around the first post with patience. The earth gave up the broken concrete like an old tooth. We lifted the stump and looked at the bottom. The wood had turned to sponge. Water had won, like it always does if you ignore it. We set the new post in the hole and checked it with the level. Plumb is a funny word for upright. We said it out loud because saying plumb makes you feel competent. The bubble found center, and we both pretended we hadn't moved it with secret tiny breaths. We braced the post with 2x4s at an angle, like crutches, soft pressure. Then we mixed the concrete. The bag said, set in 20 minutes. We gave it 40 because life runs late. While we waited, we talked about nothing and everything. Work annoyances, a recipe he likes for roasted carrots with honey and spice, a cloud that looked like a whale that had a meeting. It's wild how shared tasks make conversation easier. Your mouth moves because your hands are busy. We grilled while the posts set. Not a big production. A little sizzle on a small grill. A few vegetables. A few skewers. The kind of meal that tastes better because the wind is soft and you're standing. He flipped things with care. I cut foil into silly little boats so nothing fell through. The fence stood there half braced, watching us like a patient at a spa. Cucumber slices on its eyes. Gentle safety. If you're digging or using tools near a fence, call your local utility locator first and wear basic protection. Guessing isn't brave. It's just guessing. We came back to the work. The concrete had firmed. The braces held. We moved down the line. A second post got the same treatment. A third got a half measure. Compacted gravel and a new wedge to stop the wobble. We swapped out 2 cracked rails that had split at the end. We reused as much as we could. It's kind to keep old wood in the story when it still has strength. Neighbor number 2 wandered out with a mug and a curiosity face. She asked if we needed a mallet. We didn't. She brought one anyway because mallets like to be invited. She told us a story about the fence from the year she moved in, when Wynn took a panel for a walk and someone chased it down the street like it was a kite you could shame back home. We laughed. The panel survived. The legend did too. We talked about spring, about doing it right when the ground isn't stiff like a stubborn jaw. New posts set deeper, new boards in a lighter tone. Maybe cedar if we feel fancy, maybe stain if we feel patient. He wanted to add a little cap on top to shed rain. I wanted a trellis corner for a climbing plant that would mind its manners. We agreed to split both money and labor, not 50-50 for every moment, but fair in the end. Balance is the goal, not accounting. By mid-afternoon, the fence had changed. It stood straighter. It didn't groan under a breeze. Even the gate caught less when it swung. We sanded a few splinters off the latch you touch 100 times without thinking. Little things. High traffic touch points matter. We kept the grill going low and let the last of the posts rest. The smell of dinner and wet concrete is not a perfume anyone would sell, but it felt like progress. We ate sitting on upside-down buckets like kids at a make-believe diner. He told me about a time he tried to fix a drawer and installed it upside down and then decided to live with it for a year out of stubbornness. I told him about the shelf I hung with one anchor and pure optimism and how it lasted until one loud thud taught me humility. When the light shifted, the fence threw a long shadow that landed neatly instead of at a confused angle. I didn't know a shadow could look relieved. We packed tools away and swept the walk. He rolled the extra concrete bag closed so it wouldn't clump by morning. I coiled the extension cord in a loop that probably made a sailor somewhere cry, but it worked. We didn't high-five. We're not high-five people. We did the nod that says, we did a thing, and it didn't go sideways. It's the best kind of nod. Quiet. Satisfied. The kind you remember when you catch your brain looking for a reason to be annoyed later. You say, hey, remember the fence, and the brain sits down. Over the next week, I watched the fence like you watch a kid after a haircut. You don't want to be weird about it, but you're proud. Rain came. It held. Wind came. It shrugged. Neighbor Two's cat came. It climbed one post and then changed its mind, like it had seen the new sternness and respected it. The gate kept catching less, and then, after one extra sanding pass, not at all, tiny chore, big mood. He texted me pictures of fence ideas. Not Pinterest perfect ones, real ones. A fence with a narrow shelf for potted herbs every few posts. A fence with a cutout window that framed a tree just right. A fence with a birdhouse mounted like a tiny apartment above a brown subway line. We didn't decide. We just enjoyed the options. Planning is half the fun when no one is panicking. One Saturday, we chalked a temporary mural on one panel. Nothing serious. A wave, a sun, a little boat. The rain took it later, and that felt exactly right. Fences are for seasons, not forever art. We let it go. The concrete under the posts didn't mind. It kept doing its boring, heroic job. I noticed something else too. I started picking up trash along our shared strip without doing the mental math of whose side is this. He started tucking our garbage cans back neatly after collection without texting to brag about it. Neighbor 2 dragged both our bins in one time when it rained and left a note that said, "No soggy lids on my watch." The fence stood. So did the tiny habits that hold the street together. Spring came slow, like it had a lot of tabs open. We set a weekend for the upgrade. Bought posts, rails, hardware that didn't look like it would rust just because you blinked near it. We did the call before you dig thing again because repeating safety is not dull. It's adult. We dug deeper. Set posts true. Ran rails level. Used a jig he made out of scrap to keep board spacing even. It looked professional, which felt weird because we are definitely not. We saved 3 old boards that had nice knots and turned them into little shelves in our sheds. I like that. Things continue. Not everything goes to the curb. The new fence smelled like fresh lumber in tomorrow. We stained it a light color that looked like toast. Neighbor 2 approved with a thumbs up and a cookie. Yes, she is the kind of person who has a cookie ready when you finish a fence. Lucky block. Dogs stopped at the fence to sniff corners like they were reading the news. Kids rode scooters by and dragged a chalk line along the base, and then apologized. And then we told them it was fine, and they smiled so hard you'd think we handed them a key to the city. Birds tried the birdhouse the next week and decided it was a decent starter home. The street felt maintained, not fancy, just cared for. And the friendship? It stood up like the fence. We didn't start hanging out every day. We didn't become sitcom neighbors who enter without knocking. We just trusted each other more. If a package landed on his side, he brought it to my door like an automatic reflex. If I got home late and saw his porch light flicker, I texted bulb, and he said fixed. Small pings, big map. Sometimes I still catch the morning sun on the fence and think about the day it leaned like it wanted a nap. I'm glad we didn't scold it. I'm glad we didn't ignore it. We gave it what we had. Time. Care. Straight line to aim for. That's enough for a lot of things, honestly. Fence. Steady. Neighbor bond. Steady. Feels right. All right, onward. Open office. Shared air. Shared light. Shared everything, including sounds no one signed up for. Keyboards click in different accents. Someone stirs tea like they're auditioning for a storm. Someone scrolls a mouse with a tiny squeak that sneaks into your skull. Music helps, until it doesn't. We had a low-grade music Cold War. One person's lo-fi met another person's happy pop at lunch, and they fought quietly in the corners of our ears. Volume creep is real. You start reasonable. You end up at, who turned the waves up? Nobody wanted to be the sound police. Nobody wanted to work in a library with guilt. We needed a rule that wasn't a lecture. The fix started with a question in the team chat. What if we pick a theme per day and cap volume at inside voice for a speaker? The phrase got a handful of thumbs, and one cautious, depends. Fair. We made a tiny plan. Mellow Monday, Acoustic Tuesday, White Noise Wednesday, Throwback Thursday, Focus Friday. 5 buckets. No bucket means do what you want at a whisper. We also set a time rule. Lyrics stay low or off from 10 to 1. That's when brains do their most dramatic complaining. After 1, new rules apply. Finish line energy gets a pass. The volume cap became a real thing with a real number. We taped a small dot on the speaker dial. That's it, the dot. We called it 3. Not because we measured decibels, because 3 is a friendly number. We agreed, keep it at 3 unless you're alone late. Then, turn it down to 2, because empty rooms exaggerate. I don't know why, but they do. We rotated who picks the playlist. The DJ isn't a person with power. It's a chore, like watering the plant or ordering pens. Monday went lo-fi. No surprise. Tuesday went unplugged. Old songs dressed down. Voices that sounded like they were sitting on a floor pillow. Wednesday dipped into rain loops and fan hum and a train far away. Thursday jumped decades. A little 90s. A little 00s. A song someone's mom used to sing in the car. Friday kept it pulsy without yelling. 2 hours on, 20 minutes of quiet. Repeat. We wrote the rules on one sticky note and stuck it to the side of the speaker. Not a poster, not an email with 7 bullet points. Just a note that said, themes above, dot at 3. Lyrics low from 10-1, tap to pause when someone's on a call. It's funny how people will follow a sticky note if the sticky note is chill. First week felt like a science day. On Monday, someone whispered, "I can feel my shoulders drop." They did. On Tuesday, the acoustic set made an early afternoon slump a little less dramatic. On Wednesday, the white noise felt weird for 5 minutes and then disappeared into air like it was always there. By Thursday, people were calling out tiny requests in the chat like, 2 throwbacks, please. Nothing that makes me think of high school math. And we did our best. The hummer was real. Every office has one. She hums. Not loudly. Not badly. Just constantly. It used to poke people like a baby fork. With the themes in place, the hum started to match. She hummed on beat. The melody found the music instead of fighting it. My brain stopped doing the slow scream. I think hers did too. We made one more micro rule. Headphones are always fine, but the over-the-ear kind gets a thumbs up if you want to be alone. And the tiny earbuds mean, tap my shoulder gently. It's okay. This sounds silly. It stopped the, I waved and you didn't see me, so I feel rejected by accident loop. Clear signals save friendships. We also made a calendar block called Quiet Hour from 11 to 12 on Wednesdays. No meetings, no speaker, just air. You could hear the building breathe. Keyboards clicked like rain on a car roof. It made the day longer in a good way, like we reclaimed one piece of it. We tested special cases. Birthday in the office. Short burst of a song the person actually likes. The dot stays at 3. If someone's on a call, we tap the pause and nobody groans. You can be fun and also kind. Those things are friends. The shared playlist lived on a service with collaborative mode. No anonymous chaos. Real names added songs. You pick, you vouch. We kept a short list in the description. No songs with sirens, no sudden screams, no bass drops that make pins crawl. It saved us 3 jump scares and 1 spilled coffee. We had one oops. Someone put on an upbeat track during a sprint and the drum hit like a door slam. The chat filled with ah and then calm laughing, and then the dot got a gentle nudge back to 3. Nobody wrote a paragraph about it. Nobody made it a thing. The music turned into a backing track again. That's the goal. Soundtrack, not show. It changed small behaviors too. People started announcing deep work, like weather. Heads down for an hour. Then they'd put on bigger headphones, and the speaker would pause. We respected the flag. Later, someone would wave a snack in the air like a tiny white flag. Truce. Break time. The music came back, soft and friendly. We discovered new tiny genres that sound like sitting by a window. Soft piano that isn't sad. guitar that sounds like a nap on a couch, synth pads that are basically warm fog. I didn't know I needed those in my life. I do. Someone brought a small plant and put it next to the speaker. We joked it was the DJ's emotional support fern. It grew fast. Office lights aren't kind, but window light is. We rotated it every Monday. It became part of the ritual. Press play. Turn the plant. Open the dock. Start. The headaches dropped. Not the I need water ones. The noise ones. The tension ones that collect right between your eyes. The team started greeting each other in the morning with a little more voice. Not louder. Just placed. When you're not fighting the room, you have air left to be human. We added 2 more theme quirks after a month, because habits like variety, if you set expectations first. Rainy days get a cozy swap, no matter the day. Think crackle recordings and soft strings, and anything with the word drift in it. End of quarter afternoons get ambient beats that feel like a light jog. Nobody forces a sprint at 4. We don't do that to each other. A funny thing happened with meetings. When we hopped on calls with the wider company, our room was calmer. You could hear it in how we spoke. No edge. Fewer, sorry what? Bumps. People asked us why we sounded like a yoga studio, powered by spreadsheets. We shrugged and said, the dot is at 3. They didn't get it. That's okay. It's our dot. We also set up a quick mute hand signal for the speaker. Palm up, small wave. Whoever is closest taps pause. No shame, no glare. It's just a button. The person talking on the phone smiles without breaking sentence. The speaker comes back when they're done. The room remembers and respects. Rhythms make communities. Someone asked for a skip rule. We made one. 1 skip per person per day. No explanations needed. You don't have to turn every preference into a council meeting. If a track pokes your brain, bump it. Done. The playlist survives. Your sanity survives. The chat usually fills with a light, low L fare, and then moves on. That tiny permission keeps resentment small. We kept the DJ duty rolling with a line on the board. When it's your week, you pick. When it's not, you trust. We found out the quietest person on the team has the smoothest taste. He picks tracks that sound like a page turning and a window opening at the same time. He never talks about it. He just does it. We noticed. Sometimes the best part of a truce is discovering the soft skills people carry around and never brag about. I won't overstate it. Music didn't fix deadlines. It didn't make emails shorter. It didn't turn the printer into a saint. But it took a steady drip of tiny annoyances and turned them into background texture. We stopped being mad at each other for things that weren't personal. We saved the energy for the work that actually needed it. By month 3, the rules were muscle memory. Nobody guarded them. They just happened. The speaker lived at 3. The themes rotated like a calendar you don't have to fight. The hummer still hummed, but we hummed with her sometimes, and it felt like a joke we were all in on instead of a splinter. The plant by the speaker hit a growth spurt. We cheered, yes, for a plant. We are that office now, and it's fine. Every so often we get a visitor who whispers, "It's always this." Easy. Not quiet. Just easy. Like the room is holding you instead of poking you. We say, yeah, mostly. We point at the dot. We point at the sticky note. We joke about White Noise Wednesday like it's a holiday. They smile. They lower their voice without being asked. The room trains people gently. I like that. If you're wondering whether your office should try a truce, try the tiny version. Pick one day. Cap the volume with a dot and a laugh. See how it feels. If 2 people breathe deeper, you win. If not, you only spent a sticky note. Low risk, good odds. We kept the sticky note even after we memorized it. It's a souvenir now. Proof you can change a vibe with very little. Some tape, a dot. A shared agreement that work shouldn't feel like a battle with sound. And the hum at our place? It's not the hum of frustration anymore. It's the hum of people making things, together, at a pace you can live with, which is kind of the whole point. Simple fix. Better days. All right, sliding to the next.